Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhate girim yat kirpatadham bande Shri Gurum Dintaranam Paramananda Madhvam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तारूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्त्याखं नमामि भक्ति शक्तिकम् कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपाकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमो पंकजनाभाय नमो पंकजमालिने नमो पंकजनेत्राय नमस्य पंकजांगराय। ओम पूर्णं मदः पूर्णं मिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णं मुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णम् आदाय पूर्णमेव अवशिष्यते। जय 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 श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर भगवान की जय। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदो श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव सदी गौर भक्त वृंदा। आत्मा रामस्य मुन्यो निर्ग्रंथ पीरुक्रमे कुर्वन्ति हेतुकी भक्ति हितं भूत गुणो हरि। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। भक्ति शास्त्री ग्रुप की जय। श्री श्री उपनिषद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमनंदी हरि हरि बोल। Hare Krishna. So, can you all hear me clearly? Can somebody confirm?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Jai. Thank you. So, we are very lucky today, very fortunate to start a very, very confidential subject. I personally think that Upanishads are very confidential and have deeper meanings because the teaching of Upanishads are very critical. So we are going to start our module 5, Sri Isopanisad. And today we will very much try to focus on introduction of the Isopanisad. And what I'm going to do is that I will have some material from purport, or it was in fact a lecture given by Srila Prabhupada. Some of the items from there, and then also some additional points to give you some deeper understanding of the literature, Sri Upanishad, that we are going to study. It's beautiful, very beautiful, and it will give us a lot of good insight. So we are kind of a little bit, spiking up, rising up in our study and going to kind of, higher and elevated subject. So what I'll do is that I'll just summarize some of the key points that I have here, and then, we'll continue discussing as we go along. Let me see who is missing. Okay, most of you are here, except Soumya Mataji. So, Isha is very familiar word, Ishwar. the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the person who controls everything. Isa is normally a word that refers to the person who controls. The Supreme Lord, Sri Hari, is the controller, and Upa means near. Upatisthita, please come and sit next to me. So, Upa means near, and Upa nisidati means to bring something. So, Isha Upanishad means to bring ourselves close to Sri Hari, close to Krishna. That's the real meaning of this literature. Sri Upanishad is the literature that will bring us close to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Also, Upa means near, and dhatu has been used many times to uh, prove something for certainty. So ni also refers to certainty, and shad means to soften or to destroy or to lose. So Isopanisad also is a scripture that will certainly lose our bondage with the things of the material world. It will destroy our ignorance about who we are. Jivara Sarupaya, Nitya Krishna Das. All of this contamination that is laying upon us, Isopanisad will help us to destroy that ignorance. And then finally, it helps one attain liberation. So liberation for time being, liberation, could have different contextual meaning. But for time being, just consider here that liberation is basically getting rid of the cycle of repeated birth and death. So that many advantages we have by reading Upanishad, Sri Upanishad. Sri Isopanishad will give us that many fruits, phala-shruti. What will happen if we read Sri Isopanishad? The phala-shruti is that it will bring us close to Supreme Personality of Godhead. It will loosen all of our bondage, destroy all the ignorance that we have, and it will help us attain the liberation. So Upanishad, the source of the Upanishads are multiple. Upanishad is not that is something compiled by specific acharyas. Upanishads have multiple sources. So sometimes Upanishad will come from a discussion between a Raj Rishi, such as a Prithu Maharaj, or other Raj Rishis that we see in our Bhagavatam. Sometimes they are talking to their citizens, or they, in a certain situation, they are giving a specific advice. So that type of advice can also fall into the category of Upanishad. Sometimes, in a traditional Gurukul system, when acharyas are teaching his students, his disciple, and for a certain specific situation that will arise, acharya will deliver a specific message to his disciple. So that will also fall under the category of Upanishad. So there are multiple sources of Upanishad, and the real way Upanishad has been carrying on from one generation to another generation is very much by Shruti. So we'll come to there are three prasthan. We'll come to that slide later. But mostly it has been coming by hearing. So disciple is hearing from their spiritual master, and then he is saying the message to his, followers, his people. Likewise, the message has been, descending. So there are innumerous or innumerable number of Upanishad. But out of those, 108 Upanishads are called uh, principal Upanishad. So most of the time you will hear that there are 108 Upanishads. Or I remember when I was going to school as a kid in India, I heard that 108 Upanishads. But that's not true. Upanishads are of innumerable numbers. But out of those, 108 Upanishads are, it's also called principal Upanishad or Muktiko Upanishad, the Upanishad that will have, that will have impact on us to basically liberate from the bondage of repeated birth and death. Out of those 108 Upanishad, 11 Upanishads are prominent Upanishad. And when you will read our Shastras, especially commentaries of Gauriya Vaisnavacharyas, you would many times hear the reference to one of these 11 prominent Upanishad. Many times, you will see Prabhupada is talking about one of these, 11 prominent Upanishad in his purport, such as in Mundakya comes a lot. So the 11 prominent Upanishads are Isha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Prashana Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Mandakya Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, and Atrireya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihad Naranyak Upanishad, and Svetasvatara Upanishad. So these are the 11 Upanishads which are prominently referred by our Gauriya Vaishnava Acharyas. So Isopanisad in nutshell define these 5 principal truths: Ishwar, Jiva, Prakriti, Kal, and Karma. Quiz. So what scripture we just finished reading, where we read about this 5 tattva? Can somebody share about it? Can somebody say which one was that?
Bhagavad Gita.
In Bhagavad Gita,
Bhagavad Gita, yes. So we just finished reading Bhagavad Gita, and in Bhagavad Gita, we taught that Bhagavad Gita mostly cover these 5 truths. Who is Ishwar, who is Jiva, what is their relationship, and how that relationship is proceeding with Kal, and how living entities are being bound by karma. So Isopanisad also talks about those 5 truths. In particular, Isopanisad that we are reading is coming from Yajurveda. So it's one of the section that is mentioned in Yajurveda. It is also said that says Dadyan, who was son of Atharvan Rishi, he revealed these 18 mantra. So in Isopanisad, we have one invocation prayer, and then there are 18 mantras. So it's being said that Sage Dadyan, he spoke these 18 mantra to praise the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those 18 mantra were further used by Swambhu Manu to praise Lord Yagya. Lord Yagya was appeared as a son of Mother Akuti and Ruchi. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, from 2nd canto all the way up to 6 cantos, we study about the dynasty of Swambhu Manu. So Swambhu Manu has had three daughters and two sons. Sons' names were Tan, Pad, and Priyavart Maharaj. And daughters, Mother Devahuti, Akuti, and Prasuti. So Mother Devahuti uh, and Kapil, in their, as their son, Lord, Kardamuni and Mother Devahuti, as their son, Lord Kapil appeared. And that we study in third canto, where Kapil Dev is giving the Sankhya philosophy. And then Akuti and Ruchi, in their family, Lord Yagya appeared. So Sambhu Manu, he also sang these 18 verses to praise Lord Yagya. So these are some of the background about Isopanisad. Then we are moving into the purport given by His Divine Grace. So some of the words that comes in that purport, we are going to go through it just to understand. So Veda is a sound incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Veda is the sound incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Veda comes from the verbal root vid. Vid means knowledge, to know or to be aware. Thus, Veda means knowledge presented in the form of sound, or Sanskrit verses sung in a specific meter. So Veda is the sound incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Many times we hear that Vedas were compiled by Vyasadeva. Yes. Veda was originally spoken by Lord to Brahma, and that teaching, even today, in the environment that we are living in, the sounds of the words of Vedas are floating. They are there, but we as such, we are not capable to tap into that frequency and understand the teaching of Veda. A Veda is ever existing. It's always, in the sound form existing. So what Vyasadeva did is that, knowing that in the age of Kali, people are going to be very, very dull. Manda sumanda matao, manda bhago padrato. In the age of Kali, people are going to be manda, sumanda, manda bhaga, always disturbed, not very fortunate. For them, this is the mercy of Vyasadeva, that he captured those sound vibration and then presented in different segment. We'll talk about that later. So Veda is called Apurushaya. Purushaya means something that is done by man, something that is created by man. But Veda is Apurusham Vakyam Veda. Veda is the word of Apurusha, means this is the word of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not Parushya, it's Aparushya. So what is the difference will make you being the Bhakti Sastri versus somebody else not being Bhakti Sastri? When you are talking, you will know the meaning of these terms. You can, when you are giving the classes or lecture, you'll be able to understand. Maybe sometimes you'll have to not use the word, but some of these technical things, has to be clear. And that makes you Bhakti Sastri graduate. To understand, the words and deeper meaning of the teaching of His Divine Grace. So, Apurusha is basically the word that is not coming from any Purusha. It's coming from Lord Himself. Shruti, as I said, or the information which is learned, which is being learned from authority. So it's coming from, such as disciple is learning from a spiritual master, and these are the axiomatic truth. Okay, so there are some truth, and in order for certain truth to be truth, we have to have some backup to support that. But the teaching of the Veda or the message that is coming into the Veda, those are axiomatic truth. Means they are truth as it is. There is no further concoction or further breakdown or explanation is needed. An example is given here that normally a stool is considered unclean, but the Veda says that cow dung is pure, therefore it must be accepted as it is. Man is mortal, it must be accepted as it is. So that type of a statement, there is no room for negotiation. It is as it is. And then parampara is a very famous word. It's basically coming through disciplic succession. So Lord Brahma, got the message from Lord himself, and then he gave it to Narad, and then that's how the message has been coming through the disciplic succession. Originally, there was only one Veda, and people were very intelligent to understand and remember it, and simply by hearing Shruti Dhara, it's called Shruti Dhara, the person who can just hear something once and remember it. In the age of Kali, we can't do that. It's very, very difficult. But in previous days, when people were very intelligent, they were Shruti Dhara. They will hear something and they'll remember forever, whole life, with the same cleanliness, with same, kind of clarity. They will remember the message. So originally there was only one Veda, and people were not very intelligent to understand. So Vyasdev, our dear Vyasdev, 5,000 years ago, he segmented those one Veda into 4 Vedas. And those are Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, and Atharva Ved. And then he assigned one of his disciples as a head of the department. If you go to the university, there is head of department for the physics department, head of department for chemistry department or biology department. So likewise, Vyasdev, he segmented one Veda into 4 Vedas, and then he assigned one of his disciple as a head of department who can manage that particular department. So Rig Veda was given to Paila Rishi, and the major topic in Rig Veda is laws of the universe, how the universe is functioning, and some other topics, but prominently laws of universe is being spoken in Rig Veda. Sham Veda was assigned to Jaimini Rishi, and Sham Veda talks mostly about devotion to Lord, different degree of devotion. Yajur Veda was assigned to Vasampayana Rishi, and Yajur Veda talks about deity worship, process of worship. Deity worship is one, plus other ways of worshipping Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is given into the Yajur Veda. And whatever was left over, Vyasdev left in Atharva Veda. And Atharva Veda was assigned to Angira Muni. And some of the topics that's there in the Atharva Veda is science, about music, how to, not this mundane music, but music to please Lord, to please Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the real purpose of our music. In third canto, we read that how sa re ga ma pa dha ni sha, this octet came. So it's part of the Visarga. So basically music and defense and medicine, all the knowledge. So you can see that in nutshell, Veda is kind of a composite, consolidated source of all the information. And then also Vyasdev, knowing that in the age of Kali, people are going to be very dull. He wrote Puranas and Mahabharatas. So that is called fifth Veda. So 4 Vedas are Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda, Tharva Veda, and fifth Vedas are Mahabharat and Puran and Itihas. So those are called fifth Veda. Okay, so moving ahead, Vyasadeva summarized the Vedic knowledge in the Vedanta Sutra also. So we'll touch upon Vedanta Sutra a little bit later. This is one of the separate prasthan. We'll come to that segment. He also compiled Purans and Mahabharata for less intelligent people. But what is the purpose of all that great work he did? Prabhupada is saying in the purport in his class, in fact, that the main purpose of all of this information is to please the highest authority, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Shri Hare. This is accepted by various acharyas, such as Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharyas, and other great acharyas. So these literatures are written to develop one's understanding, and we just saw some of the points in the previous slide, bring one to the elevated consciousness and help us one engage in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we will now hear some of these things that you will have to keep in your mind, or you will have to understand. And I'm sure you might have heard, you might not, but these things will help you a lot. Help you a lot to understand, what are the sources of knowledge, what are different system of evidence and everything. So there are 2 systems of knowledge. The knowledge that is being received, it comes through 2 systems. The first one is Aroha Pantha. Pantha means basically marg. Pantha means basically ways, process. So Aroha Pantha, which is ascending process, and Avaroha Pantha, descending process. So Aroha process, ascending process, Avaroha process, descending process. So knowledge comes to us by these 2 processes. Either it's going to be a Roha process or it's going to be our Roha process. So Aroha process is also called inductive or ascending process of receiving the knowledge. And what that does is that in this process, we, based upon our intelligence, we try to step up, neti, accepting the things which are of the higher value and rejecting the things which are of the lower values. Okay, so making endeavor to elevate our consciousness. And one of the very simple example can be given is Gyan Yogi. Gyan Yogi, on the basis of Jnana, they try to understand Supreme Personality of Godhead. They just understand that what are the good things that we should receive, we should accept, what are the bad things that we should reject. And by that process, they ascend in their consciousness, and then they try to understand Supreme Personality of Godhead. Example here is given that studying every man to find out whether man is mortal or not. So if we want to find out that man is mortal or not, in a process of ascending, we'll try to basically do research on each and every individual to find out that really each and everybody is going to die, or some of them will survive. But on the other hand, a smart person will understand that death is 100%. 100% death. Okay, 100% death. Nobody is going to survive the death. So he will say that, I don't want to waste my time to understand death is 100. Death is basically truth or not. So in ascending process, one does, in ascending process, one basically does, make personal endeavor to identify some truth. And one of the simple example is today's, scientific advancement. By scientific advancement, they think that they can go to the planets, higher planets. They can go to Mars. They can go to, moon. They can go to wherever they want to go. But we, as a sadhaka, we think that this is all hoax. It's not possible, that one can go to all those planets. And scientists may argue, there will be some argument, but what I'm trying to say here is that the ascending process is basically, by our own endeavor, we try to find certain truth. But the problem with that is that we have 4 defects. We all have those 4 defects, and Prabhupada say that multiple times, that if the machine has defect, the product of that machine is also going to be defective. Okay, so anybody knows what are the defects we have? What are the defects we have? We make mistakes, right?
Yep, cheating tendency.
Cheating tendency.
We have an illusion.
We have illusion, and then imperfect senses. So, right? Did we say all 4 right?
Yes, Prabhu.
So these are the 4 defects we have. So if we are trying to basically receive something or achieve something through the process of ascending knowledge, then those are going to be 4 defects, and you will see that more in later slide. So Aroha Pantha is descending process, deductive or descending process, knowledge acquired by hearing from a bona fide source or Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that case, accept that man is mortal, because everyone says that. Okay, so descending process is found a very bona fide process. It's found in its very effective process. It's very efficient process. Why? Because you don't have to necessarily waste your time to understand so many things which ultimately not take you to some conclusive remarks. Rather, you just take the essence and move up. So deductive process give us the essence and makes our life very efficient. And simple example is that the teaching of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita teaching is so sublime that Krishna is very much presenting the essence. He is saying that Bhoktaram Yaptapsam Saraloke Maheshwaram. I am the real enjoyer and real Ishvara. So we should believe in that. So that's the descending process. In descending process, we receive the message from our spiritual master. Disciple receive the teaching of spiritual master from the guru, and then they make that teaching their life and soul and advance in the process of bhakti. In descending process, distraction is very, very, very minimal. It's very focused process. All the distraction is already kind of scattered and taken away, and just given the essence. So descending process is very, very efficient process for us. Then there are 3 kinds of evidence. Okay, how we basically perceive, how we accept a certain thing as a truth. There are 3 ways. The first one is pratyaksh praman, which is direct evidence. Okay, so by seeing something directly, we believe in the facts that we are seeing, such as when we are seeing. So what is the problem with the pratyaksha praman is that it's again limited with our deficiency. An example can be given that every day we look at sun, we look at moon, and how they appear to us. They appear to us just like a small disk, right? But they are in fact much, much bigger. much bigger than how they appear. So this is our deficiency. So Pratyaksh Pramana, basically, yes, we have some evidence as seeing sun as a disk is not wrong, or understanding that sun is a disk is also not wrong, but in reality sun is more than that. So that is the main point that we have to understand, that although we can directly perceive some truth, but know that that truth could be multifarious. It could have multiple, it could have attributes or multiple attributes that is not revealing to me at this point, but at due course of time it will reveal. So Pratyaksha is definitely a bona fide way, but it's not sufficient. And then the second one is Anumana. Anuman is basically based upon some hypothesis. And example given here is the Darwin's theory of evolution. Okay, with some hypothesis, something can be proven, and that is very much based upon one's logical reasoning. Okay, so it's true as much as the hypothesis is true. So this is also not a perfect way of getting certain evidence, because this also comes with the same degree of deficiency as we see in Pratyaksh Pramana, plus also the hypothesis that we make, and the deficiency that is hidden with the hypothesis that we make. So Anuman Pramana is also not considered a very absolute Praman. Then the third Praman is Sabd Praman, and Sabd Praman is by hearing, received hearing from authority, and that is considered the most reliable source, such as Krishna personally talking to Arjuna. So that is considered perfect, reliable source. I'm trying to memorize that, trying to cite that verse that says, okay, it will come. So, what is that? Okay, it will come. So, Sabd Pramana is the most reliable Praman. When Krishna is saying that I am the cause of all the causes, I am basically Supreme Father, and every thing is residing and everybody is depending on me. So that message should be taken as it is. So these are some of the systems of knowledge and evidences that I wanted to share, and I would give a pause and hear if there is any challenge, any doubt, anything with any topics that we just covered before I move to the next slide. Or is it clear?
It is for me, Prabhu. Thank you.
So our process is Aroha process or Aroha process?
Avaroha.
Yeah, descending process. Because
Descending. Yep.
we learn, science of Krishna consciousness from our spiritual master, right? And the process of Jnani, although they also have a spiritual master, but that process is considered ascending process, because there is still room for one to concoct. Okay, so anybody has that they would like to clarify, or if I missed anything?
I was just wondering, why are they called Aroha and Avaroha, Prabhuji?
Aroha means sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa, going up.
Right. But
Stepping up.
so
So
we
stepping
can't,
up
we are
means
studying
you are
one.
at some degree of consciousness,
Hmm.
and then at that stage consciousness is very low, understanding is very little, but then we start stepping up. Okay, so I was like in first class, I had not much knowledge about calculus and differential, equations and, laws of physics. But when I came to 11th class, 11th grade, I knew a lot. When I came to master, oh my God, I had a lot of knowledge. When I came to PhD, I became expert of a certain field. So it's basically ascending, right?
Building up. Okay.
Yeah. But in Aroha, what happens is that you already in the very beginning, by the mercy of Guru, Shastra and Sadhu, three sources, Guru, Shastra and Sadhu, you already been given a knowledge, and you personally have to basically apply those knowledge and advance. You are not basically trying yourself to find what is truth and what is not a truth. Rather, here the truth is given to you. All you have to do is that implement that and proceed.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, did you learn Sanketam? Did you learn Sanketam?
I'm not hearing. I don't
Did you
understand what you're
learn
saying.
music? Did you learn music is what Prabhu's asking.
Yeah. We have to, yes, little bit, not much. Okay. So with that, we'll move to the next slide here. So to know something beyond the experience of one's senses and beyond experimental research, one must accept the Veda. That's the conclusive point here. So although all of these evidences and source of knowledge are given there, but we should know that the message that's given in the Veda is beyond our experience and it's beyond one's experimental research. One must approach a bona fide guru who has rightly heard the Vedic message from the right source and is formally established in Brahman. Brahman means a person who is fully established, knowing who he is, who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. So if we receive the message from that person, then we are receiving the most sublime message. And here is the picture. The example is given, traditional Gurukul style of teaching, where disciple is receiving the message from a person who is fully realized, who has fully digested the teaching of Vedas and Shastra, and he is presenting the essence to his disciples. So after that, here is the very important thing that you need to understand very carefully, and I'll try to spend some time here. So Prasthana Traya, there are three sources of spiritual knowledge. Prasthana Traya. The first one is called Suti Prasthan. The second one is called Asmriti Prasthan, and third one is called Nyaya Prasthan. Shruti, Asmriti, and Nyaya Prasthan. Shruti Prasthans are scriptures that do not have any author but are learned by hearing process. So Vedas, it's compiled by Vyasdev, but the message was already existing. So Veda is Shruti. Upanishad is also Shruti Prasthan. So when we are presenting certain fact, we can present that fact in reference to Shruti Praman, Asmriti Praman, or Nyaya Praman, or we can give the Shruti Prasthan, Asmriti Prasthan, or Nyaya Prasthan. We can say certain fact based upon the reference of Upanishad or Veda, or based upon the reference of Asmriti Prasthan, or based upon the reference of Nyaya Prasthan. So Shruti Prasthans are the Prasthans which are not written by author. Rather, it's coming by hearing process. And the example is Veda and Upanishad. And Asmriti Prasthans are the Prasthans which are written. And the example is Gita, Purans, and Mahabharata. So it was authored, although the message was existing there, but it was compiled by Vyasdev and other acharyas. So anything that is written by acharyas, written by somebody is falling under Smriti Prasthan. And then the third and very interesting Prasthan is Nyaya Prasthan. So, Shruti and Smriti, they will present some subject which are very, 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 very confidential, very, guhya, guhyam, very, very confidential for ordinary person to understand. So what our acharyas have done is that to make it simple, to make it sublime, they have taken some of the, confidential teaching or essential teaching, or the essence of a specific teaching, and they have put them as a Vedanta. They have put them as another axiom, as another sutra that is called Vedanta Sutra, or falls under Nyaya Prasthan. So, for example, Om Tat Sat, or Atto Brahm Jigyasa, or Janmadhyasya Athaha, or
Aham Brahmas.
Aham Brahmas, yeah, right. And then, Tamso Majyotirgamya. So these are the basically aphorism, sutra, okay, that is either coming from Upanishad, Vedas, or coming from Puranas. We know that the beautiful explanation of the Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam. So some of the messages in a very consolidated form is taken and presented as a sutra, and that's called Nyaya Prasthan. And beautiful example for Nyaya Prasthan is Vedanta Sutra. Prabhupada is saying that if one believed in the Vedic literature, one must accept all the Vedic literature recognized by the great acharyas. Okay, so both Shruti and all these prasthans should be considered as a authentic source. But what happens with Mayavadi philosopher, that they accept Nyaya Prasthan, they accept Vedanta, they accept Shruti Prasthan, but they reject Smriti Prasthan. Okay, so we are studying in Chaitanya Charitamrita the discussion that's going on between Mahaprabhu and Prakashananda Saraswati, and there are multi-level of discussion that's going on. For example, Om Tat Sat. Okay, Om Tat Sat. The Vaishnava explanation of Om Tat Sat is that Om is sound incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So Om refers to Vishnu himself, and Tat refers to his energy, and Shat refers to eternity. So Om Tat Shat means this whole creation that you and I are seeing around is energy of Lord. Om is energy of Lord Vishnu, Krishna, who is eternal. So that's the best now understanding. Om Tat Sat means this creation is energy of Lord Vishnu, who is eternal, and means Lord Vishnu is a person. But Mayavadic understanding will be that Om is basically Om is the universe. Okay, Om, normally they say, oh, Om means this wide sound, this universe. And Tat, Shat means everything that is existing here is basically illusory, and that void is the absolute truth. The Brahman understanding that this Brahman is basically absolute, and everything that is existing is illusory. Okay, so it's also called Pramanvad. Means our philosophy is that we believe in Pramanvad, Parinamvad, and Parinamvad means that everything that is existing, it existing in the relationship of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is very beautiful discussion in that segment, 7th chapter of Adi Lila, where Mahaprabhu is talking to Prakashananda Saraswati and telling him that you are taking the core teaching of Vedanta Sutra, but the interpretation that you are giving is wrong. It's not correct way to see it. So that's what basically Mayavadi philosopher does. They even out of Vedanta Sutra, they have made some sutra that they call it Mahavakya. So Vedanta Sutra has 500 or 600 aphorism, 555 aphorism, sutras. So out of those sutra, they have taken some sutras, okay, and they say that this sutra is essence of other sutras, and then they use that sutra to present their point. So Mahaprabhu is saying there with Prakashananda Saraswati that it should be taken as it is. And one of the, says, Aham Tvam Ashi, something like that, I'm forgetting it. So there they say that we are that same Brahman. What is that?
Tattvamasi.
Tattvamasi. Thank you, Mataji. Tattvamasi. So Tat means that. Tvam, so Om Tat Sat. So this Om is Lord Vishnu when we say. So let me give you both the explanation. So Lord Vishnu is that Om, and his energy is what everything existing, and we are part and parcel of his energy. That's Tattvamasi. Means we are, Tat means that, and Tvam refers to again all the creation. So we all are basically energy of that Tat. That Tat is basically the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's best now understanding. But when it comes to Mayavadic understanding, then they will say that this Om is a void and Tat Tvamasi, and we all are that void. So Tat, that voidness, Tvamasi, you are that voidness. Okay, so completely misinterpretation. And this topic, we'll be talking more, because Isopanisad, if it's not understood very carefully, then it will give you some sort of idea or some sort of tendency to believe that maybe what Mayavadi believes is the real thing or real truth. So that is why we have to very nicely handle the verses that's coming in future. Okay, we have to understand what is the Vaishnava theology, not the Mayavadi theology. So it's very important to mention here that when Vaishnava is presenting our theology, we are citing all of these three prasthans. We are taking all of these three prasthan, and then we are giving the conclusion that's coming out of these three prasthan. But Mayavadi conclusions are, first, they don't believe in Asmriti prasthan, plus they give their own interpretation by taking the help of Mahavakyas. And Tattvamasi is one of the Mahavakyas. Om Tat Sat is in one of the Mahavakyas. Okay, so these are some of the Mahavakyas that Mayavadi used to give their interpretation. So anybody has anything else before we move into the next slide? Okay, so in the next slide,
Prabhu, can I ask one question?
Yeah. Please.
So Prabhu, in this slide, we are saying Shruti Prasthan, which is by hearing, right? And in the slide before, we are saying systems of acquiring knowledge. Yeah, in here, we are saying hearing, by hearing, that's the most reliable, but we do mostly Smriti Prasthan, right? We hear Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana, which is Smriti Prasthan. Is it? Because examples here says Gita's, Puranas, and Mahabharata in Smriti. So a little bit confusing.
No, yeah. So I know where the confusion is coming. So this slide here, okay, this slide is basically about pramana, about prasthan. Okay, so when you are trying to basically, when you are trying to prove certain argument, okay, where you refer to. Are you following me?
Yes,
so this is
Prabhu,
basically
yes.
saying that to justify certain statement that you make, either you can refer to Shruti Prasthan, or either you can refer to Smriti Prasthan, or either you can refer to Nyaya Prasthan. But all of these three Prasthan is a set of knowledge. Okay?
Yes.
Did you see the
Okay.
point?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Thank you very much.
So now you have a knowledge. Then in knowledge, you are categorizing them as a different source. So this prasthan can be used like, that's why I give the example that if I say Om Tat Sat, okay, so I can say Om Tat Sat means, Lord Vishnu is the eternal, he is a person, and everything is source of his energy, okay? But you can say, no, this Om Tat Sat means, this effulgence, this whole void, and we all are basically, same to that Om, right?
Mm.
The two contradictory statement. So how we basically now come to the conclusion that which one should be accepted? Prasthana. You see my point?
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
go back and then we see, okay, so what Shruti Prasthana is saying, what Veda is saying. Oh, Veda says this thing. Okay, what's Smriti Prasthana is saying on this topic, this thing. Okay, and then what Nyaya, and then you put everything together and then you conclude. But all of these three are set of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Prabhu. Got it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Is it clear to, or is there still doubt?
No, Prabhu,
Some-
I got it. I got it now. Yeah,
So
because
here we are trying to say basically how knowledge comes, right?
yes.
But here we are saying that you have the knowledge now, but now, you have to come to certain fact, okay? So how you basically use the existing knowledge and then you put them, basically as a Shruti, a Smriti, and Nyaya Prasthan, and then you use them to prove certain fact.
Got it, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
So these are the prasthan, you will hear that especially when Vedic argument happens, like two, Vedantists, person, who are very good in Shastric understanding, when they talk about certain conflict, like when Vaishnava is talking to Mayavadi, and when they come to the definition of, Tattvamasi, thank you for reminding that I was looking for that. Tattvamasi. So now there will be, basically argument. You will say that Tattvamasi means this. Okay, so what is your source? That's what Shruti Prasthan is saying, what Smriti Prasthan is saying, what Nyaya Prasthan is saying. And you use those as a reference to give the definition of Tattvamasi. Okay? So these are the basically real, prasthana, real source where, we cite. Okay, so we are almost at 3 o'clock. This is the last slide. I'll just quickly go over this slide. So in Isopanisad, we have total 19 verses. 18 verses are the core verses, and the very first verse is invocation verse. And those can be basically, there are multiple ways, you can put those verses in different categories. But for sake of, this class, and as far I'm kind of going through it, we are just putting them in the 5 categories. The first one is basically first 4 verses, including invocation, is talking about how one can live in harmony with God. How to basically start, living a life which is harmonized with the teaching of the Lord. And then how to develop a vision, how to develop, a spiritual vision. And that has been also spoken at many places, in Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapil Dev is also saying the same thing to Devavati Mataji. Prithu Maharaj is saying the same thing to his citizens, that a person who is not, being very conscious about other living being, they are seeing other living being as a product of the matter. they are not seeing the spark, presence of soul and super soul, then their vision is basically artificial vision. Okay, pasanapi na pashyati. So how to develop the vision, to see things that are existing around, and then also how to distinguish between what is vidya and what is avidya, where vidya will lead us and where avidya will lead us. And then the very confidential segment comes sambhuti and asambhuti, such as what's the benefit of worshipping demigods, or what is the benefits of worshipping impersonal Brahman, what are the demerits and merits of that. And then finally it will conclude that the Lord Krishna is the supreme person and he is a person. And then there will be some heartfelt prayers to that supreme personality of Godhead. So that's how basically Isopanisad will flow. As we get into the verse by verse, we'll unfold it and we'll try to understand it in a very deeper way. And this slide for now, I just went very quickly because there are so many essential points. As we go along, I'll kind of keep on unfolding more. So for the first segment, living in harmony with God, okay, I just gave that there are a series of verses which are going to talk how one can live in harmony, Ishavasam Jagat Sarvam, how we can see things, in harmony with Lord's instruction. But as we continue learning the verse and verse, then we'll talk a little bit more as we go through this slide, and we'll have the deeper understanding to understand the flow. So today I just wanted to introduce quickly that we'll be starting from next week the invocation prayer, and as we go along, it's going to be very, very exciting discussion. So with that, I would like to give a pause and hear some feedback, some discussions, some comments, something that you do not agree, or anything that is not very clear to you. It's only 3 or 4, so you can take some time.
Prabhu, this is Ram Kishore. I just have a question. How many verses are we going to cover each class?
Oh, it depends. Sometimes we'll cover 1, sometimes 2, sometimes we can cover 3 also. Depends how big Purport Prabhupada is.
Sure. Haribol.
We are, following syllabus. So we'll just try to basically take some of his, guidance for us, and then we'll try to understand that. That's the basically intent of the course.
Yep, sure. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare. So first one, definitely a little longer. I can see, that first or second verse, those 2 verses Prabhupada has written a lot. So we'll have to, at least the first one. Isavadam. Yeah, I see like 3-4 pages. Mantra 2 is in mantra 3. Yeah, so it's very much depends. Sometimes you can cover maybe, I think, 3 verses. Sometimes 2. At least I'll try to cover 2 verses in one class if I can. So you all have this book, right? Sri Isopanisad. If not,
yes,
then
Prabhu. I have it.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji. Yeah.
Yes.
very, thin book, but very powerful. Okay, so anybody has anything?